Lords of the Dance, Xpert TV.
Good evening, welcome. You return back to us, me and Tpol. We're going to be talking a little bit of the Lords season 22, a little bit of an overview of what the hell has just happened, talk about some relegation positions that are up for debate, and also forecasting that to the next season, who's going to get relegated, who's going to get promoted, what kind of change reports people had, the whole shebang. What has happened within the last 2-3 weeks?
Well, I must admit, it's next season is what is exciting me. Although I am at the same time kind of dreading it because I think I'm going to get relegated potentially.
Oh, you're not another one of those
mate,
jumping on the bandwagon.
I brought in 3 17-4s this silly season. My team is either, as people have very rightfully pointed out, either old folks, OAPs, or their kids.
So you're like the demographic of Fleet, basically.
Yeah, essentially. I've got a load of people waiting for death and a load of sort of uni dropouts who are still living in their parents working at Morrison's. That's what I'm doing. So we'll see. But in terms of what happened last season, I suppose if we just recap that, Graham obviously dominated. And then after that, it was Norman, and then a fucking mental scrap. Somehow, I had the most disappointing season.
You ended up on top of the pile.
Yeah, I come third. You've somehow come fourth. I don't know how you've done that.
I remember saying to you, what was it, about 7 or 8 games in, you were concerned you were going to get relegated, and I was like, you're not going to have a problem. And then there was a couple games later, I was down in the relegation zone, and there was a bit of pressure being applied on me by certain managers. But I always knew it along the line. The top 4 are essentially the best 4 teams in the league at the moment, and then it kind of just trickles down from there. It was always going to be this way, no matter how the season went. I know you're not a believer in that because you've experienced seasons where you just can't put a foot right, but it was always going to finish like that.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with you that those are the top 4 teams in the Lords, but
I think they were of the season.
I think that's probably fair to be. Yeah, I agree with you. Not next season will be a different story, but yeah. And I think after that, you've got to give a shout out to Ben. Had a terrific season with the happy feet. First season up, 8 wins, 28 points. It was unlucky really only to finish 5th. And Harsh likewise had a really good season.
He was first at one point.
Yeah, I think I was one there where I didn't think that was going to last, but with a very young team, he's done very well. And then obviously Simon, I think Simon and Pete are kind of similar seasons, but I think Simon's got a lot more promise. I think Simon's got a lot more to be excited about.
Yet another year of failure has to be pointed out in terms of the dream team making the final and not winning the cup.
They're just not really anywhere. They're just kind of. They're just eternal mid-table.
They're slipping down the all-time standings histories, and they're one of 3 teams that have been a Lord. You would have thought there'd be a bit more pluck about it.
But I'd say they're never in the fight for relegation either. You know what I mean?
True.
Not really. They don't tend to be in that, but they're not competing at the top. I don't know. No one really talks about the dream team, to be fair.
Which I think is wrong. He should be talked about more.
Let's face it. There's just not much to say. I'm trying to think of things now for this podcast. I think of fuck all. So, and then you obviously got Steve. 11 draws. Fair enough. I think he did what he needed to do to stay up.
Again, he knew he was being the scrap, and he scrapped well.
Yeah,
he got the right amount of draws.
I'll be taking tips from Steve because I'm going to have to do a very similar kind of approach to this season. I think I'm going to have to be quite defensive and not give too much away because I don't really have the talent that some of the other teams do. And I think
I think there's proof in the pudding. Look, of the bottom 4, he finished with 5 losses. He managed to retain enough draws and wins. Everyone else they just didn't get enough out of some games.
Yeah, and if you look at it, essentially, Steve's team was arguably the worst in the league, but he kind of acknowledged that, played in a certain way that allowed him to still compete, and he got what he needed to from the season. Yeah. And then obviously you got Larry and Ed, who are both staying up through the good graces of, I suppose. Recruitment. People joining up.
We got to get back on the Xpert train. Get the wheels going. Wheels in motion.
But there's not really. They obviously had the seasons they did, and but we'll still be returning to the Lords and are probably prime favourites for relegation this season, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean,
Larry's always been a hot tip for relegation. But he could. I mean, now with Muriel and Carl in the mix, two not weak teams certainly, but I feel are in that mixing pool of relegation possibilities. I know you want to tip yourself, but I honestly, at your worst, you'll finish mid-table. There's still a little bit of a divide in the divisions in the Lords specifically. There's maybe 2 gaps between maybe the top 6 or 7 teams in terms of skill and attribute that's kind of come through the system now. Then there's a bottom 5 of which there's a bit of a scrap, and sometimes one Lord can have a bit of a slip and it ends up in that mixing pot for a couple of weeks. But it always kind of walks out of it.
So tell me then. I mean, there's 13 teams this season. It's going to be a real monster.
Yeah,
it's going to be a fucking beast of a season. Yeah, I think we said it was going to be end of February that it finishes.
Is that the last game? End of February.
I think it's the 24th of February.
Okay. Yeah,
so
it's going to be a slog.
It's going to be a marathon, mate. It's going to be a good battle. But
who's in history has done well when there's been long seasons?
Well, this is, I know, something you wanted to bring up, so tell us.
Well, yeah, obviously there's been how many seasons have there been since we had that amount of games? How would I check that?
Go to your club history.
Club history.
So your club stats.
Club stats. Come on, mate. Okay, so there's been one other season when there's been 22 games. That was season 12. I won that. When there was 20 games played 3 seasons in a row when we first tried it, first, second, fourth. Admittedly, I came 7 and 4th recently. Again, it was a transition phase. You'll see that in my history as naturally.
So I mean, tell me then, if we bring the league table up again, what's going to happen this season?
Well, a lot's going to happen, and because it will be such a long season. When the cup gets into the mix, it will really divide the boys and the men, because it's going to be about form management. It's going to be understanding how much money you have for your form training, when to put it on, what players. Then that's the weeks where it breaks down what kind of manager you are when it comes to tactic setting and what's available to you. It's make or break in the Lords, and we've got a big amount to happen. Do you reckon Graham might have a slip up? He's always up there for a contention, isn't he?
I mean, he's got a lot to do. If he wins it this season, I don't think really, you can't really say anything about the others anymore. We'll just have to acknowledge that they're the greatest.
No, we won't. He'll say he was the greatest at one point.
At this point, so far. But it would be indisputable. And yeah, treble something no one else has done before, and I think the league, as competitive as it is and as large as it is, that would be some achievement. So, but we'll see if he can do it. Everyone will be gunning for him.
Mm-hmm. I won't make any kind of cloud about this. I'm not going to fuzz it up for you. I'm going to stop him winning this. And if you can't help me do that, that's all right. But make sure that you're then in a position to stop him from winning it. For the sanctity of everything our ability to save face, we cannot allow him to win this.
But this is what Graham's got to overcome: is that every manager is going to have that attitude. He's going to have to play every single game. And this is the thing that I think that people, again, squires sometimes that haven't played in the Lords don't really get, is that when you're a certain team in the Lords, people, the way that people play against you, and it changes. But when you're a sort of a weaker team, it again.
Or at least not seen as a strong team.
People have very different approaches, and I think if Graham were to do it this season, it'd be something that never been done, and possibly wouldn't be done again. Because it's fucking hard to do, especially the way the league's going, with us potentially splitting into 3 divisions.
Of which it would be a good step in the right direction. I feel.
We can discuss that in a moment. But I suppose in terms of next season as well, I think, is this the season that Bilbo are gonna break out again and win?
Well, you can't deny they've got an excellent team at the moment. They've had a really good change report. Stannis B is looking lethal, so whether he attracts a lot of man marking or not, I don't really know.
The thing is, but then Norman's got that midfield now, where if you do man mark, Baratheon, then that midfield is probably the strongest midfield in the league now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I was going to say, prior to learning some information that you showed me this morning, or a couple of hours ago rather, I would have said he had a team that was unable to rotate. Like you saw it last season, he took like 2 or 3 injuries, and that knocked him out of the running for that little stint. He had a little comeback at the end, but he was at one point vying for the title, and then it ended up like 9 points adrift.
Mm-hmm. So he's brought in that all-rounder.
He just brought in like some news. That's the thing, you know. Yeah. He's deepening his squad a little bit, which is a smart time to do it. Like of all these games, now's the time to work on some DV. You know, everyone's doing it. Just check the players out. Let's just check the players out, or the players in rather. Who's bringing in news? Exactly, all 18-4s, 17-5s. That's all that's been done.
Yeah,
me, you, Dix, Graham, Ed, Bilbo. These are the players who are, you know, being invested in for the future, and also potentially, like, can be made money from.
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been a massive amount of activity this silly season, but yeah, if you look,
the only person who's not done that is the Slays, and I think he's been smart, and he's just recognised there's a certain level you need to be when you're competing in the Lords, and he just doesn't want to get relegated.
He's got the news though. He's already got them in place.
He's set up for a really good season, the Slays. I don't know how well, but I mean in terms of his own growth as a manager, his team like evolving.
He'll definitely stay up. I think there's no doubt that team will find a way to stay up. Carl will be interesting to see how he does. Because I think you know he's going to have to, as you kind of pointed to with Muriel, get around the mental aspect of playing in the Lords. But his team, you know, that team is definitely strong enough to compete and to make a difference in games. So I don't know. The other person who's been quite active, obviously Pete, has been fairly active, brought in a few players. We've got a 17-5 for an astonishing price.
Yeah, very well done for that. He has to be given kudos to that. Yeah. Meanwhile, Graham paid 3.2 mil for a 17-4.
Yeah, I don't understand that one, but
yeah, and to be fair, Ed did drop 4 mil for his 17-4.
Let's see that guy. I didn't even see.
Mac Mercer. He has got Atchees.
That's a lot though.
It is a lot. 4 mil. You could and Pete's just pointing out you can get 17.5 for that.
Yeah, but again, Norman, 2 very savvy purchases. Just both under about 1.5 mil.
You know, me, Pete, and the Bilbo, we've all been known to dabble in the transfer market, and more often than not, we do well.
What have you thought about my incoming players?
What do you bring them up? Aloy van Groningen.
So those three.
It says Nigan. It says Groningen. How could you buy him? I mean, great price, but Sorella, Kio, Adisa, and Placido Martinera. You get the strangest names.
What do you want me to do? Like, that's just what they are.
Oh, yeah, I know, but it's just strange because that's the bit you see first to click on the player, and then you see the price. So those are the 2 factors you have on clicking on a player.
I don't tend to
when you're on the market.
I don't tend to let the player name really.
No, but no, obviously you don't let it, but it's still a factor, isn't it? It's something that you place judgment on.
Yeah.
Initially.
But
and you saw Aloy van Groningen and thought, I'll just have a little look.
I saw his attributes.
I just have a little look.
His price. I saw his compatibility.
And I thought, I'll have a bit of that in my team.
Yeah.
I want him to represent my team.
We'll see. So those 2 are all going to get sufficient game time this season. So that's why I think I can see myself finishing maybe between 8th and 11th, that kind of region. But I suppose if we talk beyond next season, you know, what are your thoughts about the direction that the league's heading now? I mean, as I said, we're up to 26. That's the most we've ever had.
Well, I think this is a fantastic opportunity for all the newcomers, of which there's 3, and you know some teams have just gone through their first season, which is a big thing in the Lords. They've got this far, gone through a change report. You've actually made an impact on your team now, and you know usually you feel a little bit more of attachment to it. And now knowing we've got even more players showing more interest, this is a perfect time with so many games in the season to really invest in Xpert 11 and just soak it up a bit more and allow it to be a bit more part of what you get enjoyment out of, you know, your identity in a way. Because that's why we're all here, right? It's because we're all connected and we all know each other, and Xpert's a really good format for us to do that. So yeah,
But how can we be doing that though? What ways can people kind of ingratiate and make?
Well, I think it would just be raw, mate. I think it would be natural because there's so many games. It's going to be a tense season. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. The cup's going to come into play, which is massive now. We've got 26 players in a cup, so there's the first round is mental. The Xpert pools is going to be going off. I know that I'll be winning bare money because Dream Team's won the most amount for the last 6 seasons, and I'm sick of it. I'm fucking sick of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I suppose. And then...
I mean, like, you know, I just hope people are just as on it as, you know, as we can be, because, you know, like, we had a good football game. I thought that went off well. You know, it was nice to see a lot of good spirit. That was all it was about. It was the spirit of the game, and I feel that we can, you know, there's no reason why we. I mean, look, fucking hell, we got 26, man. Let's fucking go.
So 3 divisions next season?
Oh yeah, I'm all up for it. I think that this season is awesome, man. I think it's, despite it being so long, and it can be a bit like wearisome. I think the end result is going to be massive, because it's going to decide. Like, I'm all up for going into these 3 divisions, and we should treat this as an opportunity to vie for those positions. You know,
yeah.
Not let it be just another season of DV.
And
you can adhere to that.
And the thing is, and I think, you know what's fair enough. We all go into the season knowing the stakes. We all go into the season. You know, there's going to be 24 games. So that should be enough, really, to tell the top 8, the middle 8, and the bottom 8, or it'll be top 9. Because we could potentially be three divisions.
No, because whoever wins the Squires, they would go up to the Lords, wouldn't they? So
yeah.
You need to be top 7 to guarantee that you'll be there.
But we'd end up, because we've got 26, so it would have been 9, 9, 8. Is that how it would do it? We'd do it 8, 9, 9.
Yeah, no, 9, 9, 8. They always give the bottom division less. That's what Graham told me anyway.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that would make sense, because that's what happened to the Squires that season, yes. So, yeah, you'd need to come top 7.
That is top half, basically. That is the top 55%.
That's what I mean.
I don't know if that's right.
If I were to come 8th, that wouldn't be good enough to be the Lords next season. So, and that would technically count as relegation.
So yeah, 8th to 13th is relegation. The stakes are high.
Meanwhile, 2 squads in. You know what I think the irony of it is that I think the 13 teams that are in the Lords right now are the best 13 teams.
I think it's the best season for it. There's no one in the Squires
that should be in the Lords.
Maybe Tristan, because I think he would enjoy being part of it, but he let the team.
But I'm talking about the quality of their team. I think those are the best 13 teams.
Might be good to have Biscuit. That'd be nice.
But
Biscuit in the mix.
Yeah, but his team isn't. Maybe his team's probably about the same level as maybe Larry and Ed's actually.
You know what I mean?
But
Larry shouldn't be here. He got relegated.
All I'm saying is, I think that next season, when it splits, I think you're going to have the two squads that come up are going to have a torrid time, because I think you're going to have potentially 2 Lords go down who are going to boss it.
Which we're on that kind of path a little bit, but at the same time,
it might take a season or 2 to even out again. But I think we're moving in the right direction. It's progressive. I think
with 24 games in a cup though, that's plenty of time for DV. So you should, so long as you've got a rotatable squad, I feel like you can get some good DV and you can focus on actually winning as well, and maybe recognising when it's time to set a defensive strategy or whatever. There's plenty of opportunity to improve in that regard.
But I guess the last point I wanted to make about the 8 divisions that really excites me is that I don't know how anyone else feels. It wasn't really. It was interesting in the middle and everything. We didn't really discuss Xpert too much, but I feel like we've had this kind of format of having about 20 or so games a season for the last 5 or 6 seasons now. It was really kind of fun and interesting development when we split to the Squires and then when the league grew, and we've always kind of every few seasons had a sort of progressive change, which has sort of just kept things interesting. And I think we're kind of at a point now where we need another one. And I think with so many other managers joining, I think splitting into 3 divisions of 8, I mean, it'd be fucking intense. It's going to be hard, but that's what this is about. This is what all out competition.
We were always going to have to get to this point if we were ever to progress, and we just got to hit it now.
Yeah, and I mean, I must say, I feel like it is time for a change, and I think this is what we need. So I'm excited. The season is I think they're going to have a tough time, but I think a lot of people are going to have a tough time. So yeah, let's get into it.
I like it. Well, I feel like we've covered all that needs to be said. Plus, I need to unfortunately leave.
Smash it football.
Yeah. So on that note, I think we should probably just end it there. Thank you for listening. Obviously, it's been a delight, and take it easy.